Now, Damian Lillard kind of gives you a player's perspective on young guys coming into the league, this sort of highlight reel hype culture that's going on, and some of the nuances that are going on with those players behind the scenes, and how older players or just veteran players are kind of looking at them at their perspective versus how they came into the league.
Guys who have it when they're 15.
No, I think that's definitely something that is in my favor, that doesn't get talked about. I didn't have to deal with, people trying to, like, these kids got managers and handlers and all these things. The hype, people handing them stuff and they getting free shoes and cars and people taking care of them because they want something on the back end and stuff like that. I didn't deal with that. So I didn't get influenced in no way, how some kids have and might get influenced. So I think that is in my favor, and it helped that I went to school. When I got to school, I was coming off the bench. You know what I mean? Like, we doing conditioning tests, and they just was on my ass at Weber. Like, I go to class, coach waiting outside my class, making sure I'm not late. Like, couldn't miss a single class. It was like,
that's discipline right there. That's discipline. That's what a lot of the younger players are missing. That same discipline gets applied to when they become a professional. To eat good, to get sleep, to not to go out and turn up, as we see Ja Morant does. This is the type of discipline that happens, that kind of trickles on to the court when they get to that next level, that professional level. And we see the Houston Rockets especially, they're missing a lot of this. They're not disciplined. And at times the Memphis Grizzlies too. They're not disciplined in certain situations. They need more vets.
Stuff like that made me as disciplined as I am now, So I definitely think that experience plays in my favor. But also, like, when I think about, like, my parents, like, my dad would have never went for no agent with me and a handler and all of this stuff that's happening now. Like, AAU coaches being, like, out front for these kids. Like, my dad was telling me when I entered the draft, like, if an agent called you, they need to call me. Like, if somebody reach out to you, like, during my season, my last year in school, it was like, if an agent reach out to you, give them my number. They shouldn't be calling you. Like, my dad, like, by the book, he don't play none of the weird shit. Like, I don't care how stuff goes, like, we not participating. So, like,
yeah, it gives players from a young age a false sense of reality. Especially being a teenager, it doesn't really make sense that an agent is calling you and speaking directly to you and not your parents. But a lot of these kids, man, they're already prepped up from a young age to getting what they want, that their talents basically results into monetary benefits or getting gifts. It's a very strange way a lot of these young players are coming to the league. It's almost like they're falling in love with what their talents gets them, instead of falling in love with the game itself, or just the rigorous practices or just disciplines in order to perfect their game.
I think it was in my favor, but I don't think it would have ever been an option even if I was, like, a top player or something, because my parents just wasn't going for shit. Like, to this day, they not going.
Yeah.
Like,
it is interesting. As you asked that question, he's talking about this. I'm like thinking back to, like, all of the in-person podcasts that we have done. And sometimes, like today, we meet a player where his team is staying. We buy a room, spend our money, all that stuff.
Expensive room,
For a lot of
man.
money.
And like sometimes, like, there'll be. I remember one time we did it with Joe Ingles, and they had the Jazz digital media staff there. Like, I'm not talking about that, but.
Yeah, that happens with some teams. OKC used to be like that with Westbrook and Durant in their early days. They were very protective of them. A lot of teams are like that.
I think about the interviews we've done with the least amount of people in the room. Like, there's nobody in the room right now.
Yeah.
It's just Dame. Steph was one. Steph,
Yep.
his bodyguard. I get it. Steph had one person in the room. And then other times we've had
20.
9.
Yeah.
Really?
Yep.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Could you imagine? I mean, we've done one with a young guy where there's 9 people in the room sitting right there, all standing right there. Listen.
That's hype culture right there. JJ is giving you some insight. That's hype culture right there. Stephen Curry, superstar, Dame, superstar. They show up to interviews almost by themselves with this one person, bodyguard, maybe like a handler. But these young players did not even make an impact in the league yet. They're showing up with 9 PR guys, an image consultant person. You know, this is crazy, man. This is crazy.
And it's just interesting to me. And I don't think there's anything wrong. I don't actually think there's anything wrong with that. I don't. The cultural shift of players coming in now. You guys have both touched on this. Austin Rivers talked about this. The mixtapes at a young age. You said entitlement. I don't think that's far off. I think it can be harsh if you generalize that about an entire group of players. But certainly I've had younger teammates as I finished up that I saw a little of that sense of entitlement.
It's common, bro.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, and this is an example I'll give you. We lose last night, you know what I'm saying? And it's like we lose. Obviously, you come back the next day. You don't want to come out and be like, okay, we're gonna have practice. You know what I'm saying? Like, but we not, you know, on our team, it's almost like we got practice tomorrow. You know what I'm saying? And this is not me knocking my teammates, because we had a really like a hard, real practice. You know what I'm saying? But like our team is like, they're on a team with me. So we talk about this stuff, you know what I'm saying? And I'm like, look, this the way it is, you know, like this the way it goes sometimes. And they'll accept it. But when you don't have somebody on your team that's letting you know how it should be, and they respect you enough because they see your real behavior, just imagine like what's really happening. There's so many teams out there that don't have it. You know what I'm saying? So they're probably really getting up like, why are we doing this? You know what I'm saying? Like, why would we be practicing? You know, I've seen interviews from young players where they'll ask, and it's like, what if you guys had, you know, practice the day after a back-to-back? And I've literally seen interviews where they're like, I ain't going. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not going. And I was thinking about it, and I was like, if we had a back-to-back, you never have practice the day after after a back-to-back. That's hard. I don't think that's ever happened. But if it did happen, yeah, you say a time, I would just be like, all right, like, obviously we probably not come in here and start scrimmaging, but like, I'll be there. You know what I'm saying? So like, to have that type of mentality, that's like an example of what the mentality is. It's just like.
But this is where I say, and Nate has touched on this in regards to load management, it's not necessarily, that part of it to me is not necessarily just on the players, because they entered the NBA at a time when there were cultural shifts around practice. Like, we had knee pads and taped ankles for an hour and a half shoot-arounds for 5 years with Stan Van Gundy. So that's what I came into the NBA with. These guys are not getting that same experience, and so they're not experiencing it well. To me, this is maybe I'm an old man, but to me, the bigger issue is this is not a generalization on an entire group of young players. It's not. I think the bigger issue becomes something you kind of touched on when you talked about your love of the game. The bigger issue becomes, do you love basketball more, or do you love the things that basketball gives you more?
And it's important to understand how they came into the game. They came into the game from a very young age, seeing that their talents are giving them gifts. So subconsciously, they kind of equated to that. And a perfect player who did not make the NBA, and is a prime example, is, I believe, with Lenny Cook. They said he was better than LeBron. But if you look at his documentary, you understand how he fell in love with basketball. He didn't fall in love with basketball in order to be the best or to develop his talents. He fell in love with basketball because he saw that basketball got him stuff. He got things through basketball. That's why he fell in love with it. And it's very important how these guys fall in love with the game. I believe a lot of these guys that are coming into the league now, they actually fell in love with the game because it brought them monetary benefits. That's the thing that does not get talked about enough. But going back to what Dame and JJ spoke about, with a lot of the parents accepting agents and accepting gifts, it might be also a generational thing. A lot of their parents now, they're not old school as Dame's father was. As you know, speak to me first, and we're not accepting this and we're not accepting that. As you see, Dame had called them accepting gifts and agents as weirdo stuff, but it's a different generation of parenting, and a lot of their parents actually grew up on social media themselves, and they're used to instant gratification. So it's a different culture even being passed down in the home nowadays. And we're going to see this new crop of players, I don't want to say come into the league very entitled, but they're definitely going to come into the NBA already rich through the NIL deals and other outside ventures that took place for them when they were on their come up.
That's where I think we run into problems when players are on that fall into that second slot, where they love what basketball gives them and they're entering the culture they're in right now.
Right.
We don't have the vets. There's a de-emphasis on vets, and the organizations have shifted a little bit of accountability. That's where we start running into problems. That to me is the issue.
No, I agree. And that's why I'm always like, I always talk about the people I came into the league and played with, because I know that is needed. You know, you need vets in the locker room. You know, it's not by mistake Udonis Haslem is in Miami and he never plays. Like, I don't think he's played like seriously in like 3 years. You know what I'm saying? Like,
he's got into a game here and
you
there.
know what I'm saying? Like, but it's known though. You know, it's known like he got a presence with these dudes. Like, what he say means something, and he knows what to say, and he knows what they need to know. So like, I feel like it should be somebody like that, or maybe two players like that in every locker room.
Facts. Definitely facts. And Haslam definitely needs to be a consultant for the Rockets to put some boots and some asses over there. Because those guys, man, in that franchise, they're developing a lot of early bad habits for their young players.
Because, like you said, like they didn't come into a culture where like they was learning to move on the same principle. So they just won't know. So I feel like it's just necessary. Think of the league though, just so the league doesn't just start to, you know, just look too much like entertainment. Like you want it to be like about the game, and like for people to watch it and be like, man, them dudes care. You know what I'm saying? Like they fighting for it. Like I think about.
And that's a well-balancing act that the league is trying to put on right now. The entertainment side versus the basketball side. As we've seen them tweak the rules a lot, making it, you know, kind of free mobility for the offensive players. You know, everything is kind of in their favor. The league is kind of balancing between that entertainment and basketball. Sometimes if they want to, you know, make the game more entertaining, they got to take away from the nuances of the game. They got to tweak the rules a little bit there. So they take away from the beauty, the art of the actual game. And some of these young players already coming into the league with their own personalities on social media, it's definitely going to be even a harder balancing act, because the league definitely for sure markets their stars based off of their social media personalities, as we see with Ja Morant.
What was it, the finals in 2010? Boston and LA, where it was like, it's really them against them. Like, it felt like it was just them against them and everybody else was watching. It didn't look like, oh, he's had a triple-double in every game in the finals. And when this guy does this is what it's like, bro, just let him, just play. Like, this team against that team.
Or he has drama with this person, or used to play on this person. As you see, TNT, they brand their NBA coverage off of the drama. Kevin Durant used to play with Kyrie. Now watch Kevin Durant versus Kyrie. I mean, TNT's whole brand, they even have a motto, the NBA on TNT, we know drama. Like, they base their marketing kind of on things outside of the game. And like Dame said, when it comes to watching basketball, if it's a real game, the fans are kind of just on the outside just watching, when guys are like locked in, and it's beautiful to watch.
I'm saying, like, it's going away from being that simple. You know what I'm saying? It feels much more like entertainment and politics than like the game.
I want to ask about
And it definitely does feel like entertainment and politics at times. But it is what it is. The younger players, it's just, there's a whole lot of hype coming into the league, but it does feel like nothing but entertainment and politics. But at the same time, the league and the game itself has a beauty to it, a natural beauty to it. And it's always going to be a balancing act between the money, the entertainment, and the game. And as technology evolves and the culture of the AAU, the NCAA with the NIL rules, and also the G League and some of the ways that they try to promote and monetize the athletes taking that route. And also even on the international level, some of the international guys coming over into the States. It's going to be very interesting to see how the league balances all these things, especially with the marketing and promotion and how they handle their younger players. So we'll see how that plays out. Until next time, you fellas stay safe. Peace.